closed guard today. So again, we're looking at it from that framework of obtaining the closed guard, retaining the closed guard, finessing and progressing from the closed guard. Okay, so with that in mind, how do we get to a closed guard?
Connect your feet around the other.
Yeah, how do we get there in a match? From what positions? What happens for us to end up in a closed guard? Yep.
You get taken down.
Taken down. Get taken down and end up in a closed guard. Excellent. What else?
Pull guard.
Pull guard. So I have an open guard scenario. Yeah, so someone's there, I pull, I put my legs around you. I get it. Get a closed guard. Very good. What else? I'm glad I gave that pep talk. This is very, very helpful. Exactly, I can escape a pin into a position where I get the closed guard. Very good. I might have a side control, I might have somebody on top of me and I go and I wrap my legs around from underneath the pin and there's a fourth time. How else can I get there? Reversal. Fantastic. So what happens when you're on top of the mountain and someone knocks you over? Where do you end up? Closed guard. Excellent. So 4 ways to get there. Same thing we spoke about last week. So I get to the closed guard when I get taken down in the closed guard. I get there when I get the closed guard from an open guard scenario. I get there when I escape from a position and take the closed guard, or I get there when I'm on top, it's in the mount basically, and I get reversal up in the closed guard. Fantastic. Once I'm in the closed guard, what do I have to do to retain the closed guard? What are the important elements I have to do to keep my legs closed? What is it exactly? So I have to lock my legs. So there's a thing here with this in particular where we can talk about what do you need to do with the closed guard. I want to have my opponent's torso stuck between my thighs. Okay, and again, we talk about this, we call this the kill zone, that space between our hips and our knees. Okay, so or the hip knee zone, the hip knee zone, whatever you want to think about. But that like square, whatever, quadrilateral shape between my knees and my hips is the space where jiu-jitsu happens. Okay, if I'm on the side control, actually I'll grab you, Remy, if you can, please. So again, if Remy's just on his back here, and he lies down, so I had a chat with a guy a while back about this, and I'm like, you know, if I'm here and I've got this, is this jiu-jitsu? Yes or no? Yes, it is, but is it wrestling also? Yeah, it's wrestling. Okay, so is there any distinction between wrestling or jiu-jitsu in this position? Not really. Okay, if he goes into the turtle position, is this jiu-jitsu or wrestling? Both, yeah, wrestling, who knows? Okay, if I get here, and I grab him, and I put him in that space, is this jiu-jitsu or wrestling? Jiu-jitsu. This is jiu-jitsu. If I put his arm in that space, is this jiu-jitsu or wrestling? Jiu-jitsu. All of our finishes, all of our submissions, everything happens in this space. If he comes up here and I grab his leg with a half guard, it's catching it in that space. Okay, if I go and I get over here and I catch his leg in a leg submission, it's happening in that space. If I get the mount, if I get the back, if he spins around, this is happening in that space. Okay, so jiu-jitsu happens within our legs. Okay, so that's super important. So with the closed guard, when we think of it that way, grab your man. If I'm here, I want to have his torso between his hips and his pits, between my legs. Okay, so how I go about controlling that is whether I can pinch my feet together. But if I'm holding him down here now, I don't have to pinch my feet together. Okay, so I can open my legs. So it's not necessarily that my legs are closed or open from here. I still think, obviously, people talk about, you know, the beauty of the closed guard is my legs are closed. I can control his hips. But there'll be times if I get really good upper body control, I want to be able to move my hips, open and close them on my terms. Okay, so the way I want to think about defining is I need to control the space between his armpits and his hips. Okay, so controlling his torso like we talked about last week, between my thighs. That's number one. What's the second thing I need to do to be able to retain and keep the position?
Posture.
Yep, definitely. We'll get to that in a sec. Just think more in terms of lower body. So I just sort of said it there before, which is this, spin this way a bit. If I'm here, we think about what Remy does when he looks to try and open my legs, for the guys that have learned and understand some guard passing. Every time he goes to open my legs, and he successfully does, he's going to pin my hips. Now, if he controls and stops me from being able to move my hips, I won't be able to keep my legs closed on my terms. So he does any guard pass here, yeah, and he moves back. So now, if he gets here that I actually can't move my hips, my legs will open up. Okay, if he comes back, if he does that again, we see this all the time, he goes to do it, and what happens? I lift my hips up. If I lift my hips up and he doesn't actually push them down and control them, then he won't be able to open my legs and I'm going to be able to retain the guard. If he does get here and pin my hips in the way that, go again, he really keeps solidly down here, yeah. Go back, push your knee in. Put your knee in to go. Let pass it. And keep your forearms on my forearms here. That's it. Now I can't lift my hips. Okay, so now when he does this and he moves back, he's going to be far more likely to open my legs. So for me to retain, I need to control his torso between my thighs, and I need to maintain mobility in my hips. And we talked about that last week with the half guard for the guys over here. What did we say? I said I need to maintain his thigh between my thighs and maintain mobility in my hips. If I lose mobility in my hips, if he pins one of my thighs to the ground, whatever, I'm going to lose the position he's going to be able to pass. Okay, so that's the lower body. Same game basically as what we did last week. So I have to retain the position. I have to keep him where I want him to be, which is between the thighs. I have to keep the mobility of my hips. The next thing we have to think about is, you just said, control his posture. So what does that really mean though? What does that really mean in terms of what we need to do? So I said, again, I'm trying to think of this in terms of teaching a kindergarten kid. It's all well good to say control posture, but what's a kinder kid going to say? What the hell's posture? Let's think of it anatomically. What do we need to do anatomically?
Bend the spine. Bend the spine.
Yeah, bend the spine, yeah. Think about what does he want to do in terms of, I can only retain the guard if he doesn't do what? He needs to do what for me no longer to retain it? Open the legs. He needs to open the legs so he can go and pass. Just like we talked about last week. He wants to free his body, free his torso from my legs. Last week when we were talking half guard, he needed to free his thigh from my legs. If he can do that, I no longer have the position. So the crucial thing is me controlling that, his torso with my lower body that I just spoke about. But what does he really need to do to be able to achieve that leg opening? There's only a few ways you can open the legs. How do you generally do it? Stand up. Yeah, standing up's a really good way to do it, isn't it? Okay, so what happens when he stands up? Stand up. Yeah. So when he stands up, I've still got him here. Have I got much mobility with my thigh, with my hips here? Can I open my legs and change the position of my hips? Yeah, can I? And still have a closed guard? No. He's over there going, yep. No. No, I can't. So as soon as I open my legs here now, what's going to happen? I'm going to fall down. Can I play? But I'm not playing closed guard anymore. Okay, so I'm no longer retaining the closed guard. So what did he do? Let's get it here. His upper body to make that happen. He stood up. But what did he do with the posture? Yeah, what's posture? Create what's distance to a 5-year-old? He stood up. What did you do? What's the key thing he did? Yeah, you just did it there. What did you do? What'd you take away? Hey, well, it's on your. Where's your chin attached to? Hey, there we go. Very good. His head positioning is crucial. Okay, so every time he opens the guard, if he opens the guard from his knees, he moves his head away. Go back. Yeah, open the guard. Take your knee back. No, take your knee back like you did. Yep, hips good. Now go and open my knees. I can't control his head to any degree here. Okay, he takes it to a point where I can no longer control his head. He needs to do that to be able to open the guard. The extreme version of that is when he goes and stands up. So he stands up. Can I control his head? No. So if he does that, now I've lost all upper body control. I can't control his head. My hips are pinned. Now all he's got to do is open my feet. So I'm not going to be able to retain the guard if he opens my feet. Comes back down. He does it on his knees. The other way he can pass is passing down low with a stack pass. And if he does that, this is going to be the last element we talk about, which is what we talked about last week, which is 2 of 3 or 2 on 1. Okay, so if I'm controlling 2 of 3, he's got 2 arms and 1 head. If I control 2 of 3, I'm going to be okay. If I get a 2 on 1, I'm going to be okay. If I get a 2 on 1, I'm going to be okay. If I get a 2 on 1, I'm going to be okay. If I get a 2 of 3, I'm pretty good whatever I've got this. Okay? But basically, I need to retain the position. I need to control his head so he can't get it far enough away that I can't control it. Because if he gets far enough away, then he's going to be in a position where he can open the legs, and then I'm going to lose it. So I have to control his head, and I have to then look to get 2 or 3 or 2 on 1. Okay? Because if I don't, he does it to me. I'll just demonstrate that. Go on the back. So again, when I'm going to pass the guard, open the guard, I'm going to get your legs close. Exactly. I'm going to look to get my head as far away as possible. If I get here, I'll be able to open his guard all day. If I stand up, get my head away, I'll be able to open his guard all day. But one other instance where I can open his guard when I'm down low is when I stack into him. So if I stack into him here, and I come around this way, and I pin him this way, okay, where I control him, I'm controlling his upper body, he's not controlling my upper body. I've got 2 or 3 or 2-on-1, he doesn't have it. So even though my head's relatively close, his head's pinned and he's not controlling my head. Now from here I can pass low, open his legs, and do a low stack pass. Okay, so similar to the 4 things we talked about last week. So if I want to retain the position, I need to keep them within that zone on my terms. That's one. So keep them within my legs on my terms. I need to maintain hip mobility. If they pin my hips so I can't move my hips, I won't be able to retain the closed guard. I need to control his head. Okay, so control his head mobility. If I do that, I'll be able to make sure he doesn't get to a position where he can open up. And ideally, I want to get 2 or 3 or 2-on-1 and not let him get done on me. Okay, so again, 4 things again. If we can do those 4 things, I'm going to be able to retain the position long enough to be able to use it. Okay, there's no point getting the closed guard and being someone who wants to play closed guard and the guy opens it up straight away. Okay, so if we think about it in terms of those crucial factors that we need to keep it, then we're going to be able to play it. That's good. So that's obtaining, retaining. Next thing I said is finessing. Finessing is subtly winning the position. Okay, the other way I spoke about this was say I get the position, I keep the position, I play the position, or I move to the next position. So this is playing the position. What do we need to do to have an effective closed guard? What are the goals that we need to achieve? What are the little wins within the game we have to do to make it work? And again, for the guys that are here last week, think in the same terms we talked about last week. What's that? Keep them close, yep, that's good. The kindy kids will understand that. That's good, no, you're correct. That's basically maintaining that control of the head. Off balancing, yeah, off balancing is slightly different to what it was with the half guard. It's a little harder because again, we're square and we're on our hips. Okay, underneath, we can get angles and we can start off balance, but slightly more difficult, I think, than what it is from a half guard. But what are our main things we're aiming for in terms of increasing our levels of control?
Getting a hand to the mat.
Getting a hand to the mat to do what? You did this. You
Attack
asked this
and
last week. Yeah, very good. Exactly. What happens if I get that?
Submit.
Good. Yeah. So first thing, I'm going to try and wrap his arm. So if I'm here and he's on top of me and I've got nothing, then I've got nothing. If I go underneath and I wrap his arm and I grab his arm and I lock in his arm, who's winning? Well, whenever I've got this, I'm on the attack now. Okay. So my first goal is to try and wrap his arm. Okay. So again, I can do it with a shoulder crunch, I can do it with an arm bar, I can do it with a kimura, I can do it any number of ways. But wrapping his arm, if I'm controlling his arm, I'm winning at this point. Yeah? Okay, and again, that's that 2 or 3 or 2-on-1 idea we spoke about. Yeah? He's got the 3 things to attack here. If I get 2 of my hands on one of those things, it's going to be really good for me. Okay, so again, I can get here and I can attack. That's one. If he's here and I come over and I get this is great. When we talk about kimura, double wrist control, whatever you want to think about, it doesn't matter. But whenever I have this, he is now defending. Okay, so I am playing the position, I am winning this position. I'm on the path to either submitting him or sweeping him, okay, which is going to be my goal from him to get up on top. Okay, makes sense? What might be another thing I might want to attack?
Yeah, your shoulder above your shoulder.
Yep, that's great. To do what? I don't know. Yeah. What could I do if I get my shoulder above his shoulder?
Submit.
Hey, good, very good. Control his head. Is this a good position? Is this a better position than when he's sitting on top of me and he's looking at me?
Yeah.
Bloody oath it is. What's the third thing I can attack? While still keeping a closed guard. This is the important thing. Okay, so again, if I grab his arm, I've got this. What can I do from here? I can attack the arm, but now I can also move to the next thing. Okay, but when I'm thinking in terms of finessing, I'm keeping the closed guard. Okay, so my legs are staying here. So I attack his arm, I attack his head. What else can I attack?
Leg.
Attack his leg, yeah, we'll do that next. What can I attack before that?
Torso.
Torso, yeah, exactly. So I get under the armpits, just like we did last time. I get under his armpits, control his torso. What do? Get my shoulders underneath. Yeah, where am I going now? Out towards the back. Excellent. So I'm gonna have the closed guard and be here. This is great. Can he do anything to me? No. Can I do good stuff to him from here? Absolutely. I can attack his arm, I can work to the back. heaps of good things are going to happen from here. So I can attack his torso. I can also come underneath here and come out the other way, like we did on the other side. We'll call this the octopus close guard. I don't want to call this octopus because I never used to call it close guard. Okay? But again, from here, this is a fantastic position. So I've still got a closed guard, but look where I am. My upper body is completely inside his armpits here. So can he punch me from here? Can he submit me from here? Did you do anything of value from here? No. So this is a fantastic position. So I'm in a winning position from here. I've controlled and wrapped his torso to the point that I can move on now and start to go and win the position. Okay. The last one you talked about is the legs. So we can do the legs down low, but the time the legs really come into play is when he stands up. So he goes to stand up. I keep going all the way up. I keep the closed guard. I attack his legs. Okay, so again, I knock him down. Okay, so I can attack his leg. I can get control of his leg while I've still got the closed guard, and now I can go and take to an advantageous position. Okay? So again, the simplest way of thinking about how we're going to finesse and play the closed guard is that once I get the closed guard, I'm going to try and wrap my arm around his head, wrap my arm around his arm, wrap my arm around his body, or wrap my arm around his leg. Okay? It's very simple, but as I said, I could teach that to a kindy kid and they could get it and go, okay, cool, we do it with the kids. They're like, okay, yeah, let's go. And guess what happens? As soon as you start wrapping your arm around their head, you've got a guillotine game. As soon as you start wrapping your arm around their body, you've got like a shoulder crunch game, where you've got an overhook game, where you've got a kimura game, where you've got all sorts of stuff. As soon as I get underneath and control their body, as I said, I'm coming out the back. Once I get underneath and control, his arm comes across, I end up in a cross body guard. I end up in an octopus guard. There's all sorts of wonderful positions that you'll get into, and I can attack his leg down low as well. Generally speaking, as I do that, I can move into like a K guard, but again, I'm moving into that position pretty quickly. But if he stands up, I can attack that leg, control, move him around, move into any sort of position. Okay, so all of those things will give you, again, they're the starting points for success in terms of winning the position. Okay, so it's a simple way to think about it, but as I said last week, when I started thinking about it this way, a whole host of other options have opened up I've never really thought about. Okay, because we've sort of learned, oh, this move, this move, this move, this move. But when you actually think about it, how do every one of these moves start? They all start with one of these things. So if you just think about getting to that thing, you'll find a whole host of possibilities will open up. Okay? Everybody cool with that? Any questions about that before we move on?
Does
Oh,
borrowing...
excellent. Oh, this is a shock. I love a question. Huh?
So obviously you want to get your head as far away as you can when you're on top from closed guard.
Yep.
Does burrowing your head in as low as you can against the chest nullify their strength, because they can't pull you anywhere anymore? The only way they can move is to push you, which is the way you...
Is it the only way they can move? This is a great question. Because Beck knows where this question's going to go. She knows where the answer's going to go. That's right. So again, what can I do? He burrows his head in here. You're right, so keep it on my chest, yeah? He locks everything in. Yeah, good, so he's here. What can I do? Is this what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's here. And you see this in MMA all the time. Guys, and the ultimate version, this is driving his head into my chest. And this is going to be awful, okay? But from here, I can still attack this. So if he's here, I'm going to outflank him. Come around, attack. I'm going to go and load up and attack him over here and do all sorts of stuff. Okay, so there's always going to be a movement that's available. Okay, if he burrows in and does it, it's the right thing for him to do. Okay, so it is to try and limit the movement, which is the whole game. Is if I've got mobility in every single direction, I'm going to be fine. If he can take away 2 or 3 of the 4 available options to me, it's more difficult for him, but there'll always be something. There's always something I can do, so as soon as I understand that, and I utilise that, then I can get to a winning position again. So there's one final sort of thing to think about with this, again, in terms of, I sort of said it already before, but whenever I wrap one of these positions, what it gives me is it gives me control, but it also enables me to move my head where I can see their back. Okay, which is something like I wasn't, as I said, thinking this way. I wasn't actively looking for this as an outcome for this way of thinking, but it's worked out that way, and it's a surprising sort of thing. And I think it's another way of sort of ticking the box, saying it's a good way to think about it. So again, if I'm here, if Remy's on top of me, he's in this position, yeah, he sits here, I can't see his back. As soon as I go here and wrap his head, oh, there's his back. Excellent. I can't see his back. As soon as I go here and wrap his arm, oh, I can see his back. If I wrap it this way, oh, I can see his back. Fantastic. If I get here and I get around and take his arm across so I'm controlling his torso, I can see his back. If I come this way, I can see his back. Okay? If I get a K-guard from here, pull it all the way around, I can see his back as well. So when he stands up and I grab the leg, I can do the same thing. So that's kind of, like I said, a byproduct of that thinking, but each one of those ideas fits in really nicely with that idea that we talk about directions of movement. Okay, so if I shut down one direction, I take a different direction. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's always something you can do. And again, if you think about that from the way everyone's taught traditionally, which is, again, what do? I want to control his posture. Excellent. Okay, I want to control the distance. Excellent. I want to do all those things, all those words that we usually use. They're all still the same thing, but it's just simplified to the point that anyone who walks off the street should be able to do this straight away. Okay, cool. So, and from there, obviously, we also have the progression element as well, which we talked about last week with the half guard. We're not going to talk about that today. I've already talked too long. Let's get going now. So what we're going to do, guys, we're going to start with the closed guard. Okay, the goal of today is first and foremost keeping the closed guard. Okay, so not allowing the person to get their head away and open the legs. Okay, when we do that first, though, we're going to do this. So we're going to start in a position. He's going to start with his head down, just like you said, and you can start with whatever grips you want. Hold on to anything you want. His goal is going to be to try and stand up or to try and open my legs. Okay, so you go again, you move. So if he stands up, good. All the way up. He's got to get his head high. Come on. Sucks to be you.
Smile for the camera.
That's all right. So he's going to try and stand up. I want you guys to not let him stand up, but I also want you to try and do one of those other things, and that's going to be, I didn't do it then, but again, make a point. Everyone's like, oh, the guy's just going to stand up. He's going to stand up if I sit here and do nothing. If I'm smart with how I move my body and my legs, I can make it very difficult for him to stand up, but I want you to actually try and, first and foremost, don't let him stand up or move back and open your legs. So again, retain the closed guard. And we want to do two of those four things. So I want to try and see if I can wrap his head or see if I can wrap an arm. Make sense? If I wrap an arm, I wrap it to the point that I should be able to see their back. They shouldn't be able to move. Okay, so if I get here and I lock him in here, I've got him. If I get him here and I lock him in here, I've got him. Even if he hides his hand, you don't have to finish the submission or anything. If I get him here and I'm like this, I've got him. Okay, so wrap their head, wrap their arm, don't let them stand up. There are our three goals. Make sense? Everyone cool with that? Let's go get a part. 3, 2, 1.
Oh, something's been working out.
Lost too much weight.
So again, we just did. What do I have to do? I have to control him. The best way for him to open the legs is for him to stand up. If he stands up, his head's at a point where I can no longer control it. And it's very hard for me to move my hips. So in terms of that retention idea, all I've got left is hanging on with my feet. And when we look at it later, I'll start to attack his leg. That'll be the last thing we look at. But now, we want to control him. If I can, I want to wrap his head. When I wrap his head, I can see his back. I want to wrap his arm. I wrap his arm, I can see his back. That's another way of thinking about it. The last thing I want to do is I want to control his torso. So I showed that before. I can come underneath and get under his armpits and then come all the way around to get here. Or I can just take his elbow across my body, take his wrist across my body. If I get to here, I'm controlling his torso as well. Okay, so if I get behind, so I'm controlling the torso, grabbing the lat on this side, I've got control. I can also come up this way and get control. So any way you like, if you can get to the point where you can control their torso. This way, double unders with your head to the outside, double unders even with your head inside. So if I just get this is a great position. Can he attack me from here? Can he do anything of note to me from here? Is he going to finish me? Can he hit me in a fight? No, he can't. Okay. So one important thing to say, again, we're training this for Jiu-Jitsu, but again, when we think about it from and I was talking to Richard, who's here from WA, a black belt, this week, and again, talking about what defines a guard. If I think about what makes a guard real or not real, it's very, very simple. I can either control him to a point where I can control his head. If I can control his head and Remy goes to try and hit me from here, he has to lift one hand off the ground and try and hit me. He can have one hand on the ground, go to hit me. He can't have both hands off the ground to go and hit me. Lift both hands off and hit me. Bang. Okay, so if I've got control of his head, he can't hit me hard. Okay? You know, things will sneak through, but realistically, he's not going to be able to hit me to the point that he can knock me out to finish the fight, if I know what I'm doing. Okay, because the only way he can lift up to get any sort of punching potential here is to put this other arm on the ground, which means this one's out of play, and I know this one's coming. So he goes to hit me, go, I can block. Okay, so I'm pretty safe, okay, realistically. And now, again, I can bring his head down to control. If I ever get to the point where I don't have control of his head, okay, I need to be outside the length of his fist. So if I'm here and I don't control his head, now he can rain punches down on me and I'm gonna lose. So if I get to this position, I've got two options. Either take my head towards him, or I can get control of it again. Or if I'm here and I can't do that, I've got to get further away so I can get something in between so he can't punch me in the head anymore. They're the only two types of guards, okay, as far in the way I think about it. If you think about it in terms of fighting. When you think about it that way, 80% of the guards you see are not real guards. Okay? They don't happen. So again, I always make that distinction between Jiu-Jitsu for no-gi and for sport versus grappling for fighting. And that's the distinction. That's the big difference. Okay, if someone can hit you in the head and you can't stop them and you can't control them in a way to limit the damage they can give you, it's not a real position. So go back to what we just did before. So closed guard, we're going to retain the closed guard. So what do we not want to do? Let them open our legs. Exactly. So we need to keep control of our legs, keep mobility of our hips. We need to control their head, okay, and we need to not let them control their head by getting 2 or 3 or 2-on-1, okay, because if they squash down and do that, they'll be able to pass our guard, like with a stack pass. Once we've retained the guard, our next goal is I'm going to wrap their head, I'm going to wrap their arm, this time I'm going to wrap the body, wrap the torso. If I can do any one of those things, we win. Does that make sense? Yeah, get your next part, let's do it. 3, 2, 1. Do the round. Keep going, guys. You got 1 more minute. 1 more minute. Okay, any questions? Anything come up there you want to ask about? Or any, let's say, revelations last week? Did you get a revelation again, Alex?
When your hips pin, just crunch up.
Yep. Very good. Yep. That's good.
That's it.
No, that's great. That's excellent. Again, all the stuff that we've explained, how we've explained Jiu-Jitsu in the past, in terms of controlling posture, in terms of fighting the hands, in terms of all the different things we want to do with our bodies, it's all still relevant. But as I say, when we teach it this way, it makes you think about it a bit differently, which is part of the whole reason for doing it. But even teaching someone without teaching any of that stuff, if we just say, right, this is what we're doing, do it, they're doing all the right stuff more often than not anyway. Okay, we'll talk about that at the end in terms of what the guys on top are doing. Okay, so anyone else, any comments? No? Okay, good. So bring it in. So now we're going to add in that last element. So now when we're here, I can control the position, wrap his head, control the position, wrap his arm, control the position, wrap the body. Okay, now I can also wrap his leg. Okay, so I can do this a couple of ways. One way is I can just come on and just stay there. If he's here again, if he sits up, especially from here, if he sits up and lifts up, I can come through, control his leg. I can still control his leg here with my legs closed and off balance a bit and still be in this position. More often than not, I'll immediately move to a different position. So I'll bring my knee inside and I'll start to come through and attack over here. But where that leg grab is going to really come into play, as we spoke about, is if this time when the person, if they manage to stand up, keep going. If he gets here in the drill, he hasn't won, because what can I do? I can wrap his leg and I can knock him down. If I knock him down, I win. Okay, if he's here and he stands up, now he has to go all the way through. If he stands up too, look, open my legs. Okay, so if he opens my legs, he's going to win. Okay, so if he opens my legs, he wins. If I wrap his leg and knock him back to the ground, get his hip to the mat, I win. Okay, so that's the last thing we're going to add to this. So if anybody have any questions about that? So it's the same thing we did before. I've got to retain the guard. I've got to retain it long enough so I can do one of the things we want to do. Once I retain it, I wrap their head, I wrap their arm, I wrap their torso, and now we're going to wrap their leg. If we wrap their leg when they're standing, I have to knock him down to the ground. Okay? If I wrap his leg when we're standing, he opens my legs and gets away, he wins. Make sense? Yep, let's go. 3, 2, 1.
Sometimes push up that arm. Do that. So if I'm up here and I come up and I got that, then I got, you know, yeah. You always gotta like try and think about maybe like figure out what happened. So what sort of slide your legs down. Especially if you're a big strong boy. I go the wrong way. It won't do anything. Yeah. So I gotta you can also scoop. Yep.
See you back.
Yeah.
Good stuff, guys. Okay, just to finish up, any observations, anything come to people there they wanted to offer back to everybody else? Yep.
You can block, you can throw the body on the top.
Yep.
You can sort of, if they're back to get past your back, you stop it to the back. At the same back, sometimes you can block the head and forehead.
Yep.
To stop him coming up.
Totally. Yep.
Yeah.
That's great. Yep. That's good. Anybody else?
If you need to get it when you stand up, they can't attack your legs.
Yep. Yeah, or they can't get inside. They have to do something else. Yeah. So if you do that, you might have to go and grab the legs on the outside and off balance. And again, we didn't look at that today. We looked at that last week. We said obtain, retain, finesse, progress. We didn't look at progressing from the closed guard. We looked at just finessing and playing the closed guard today and looking at what those major options are. Yeah. But again, if they stand again, people are going to do things in a way that you can't wrap the legs. So you have to do something else. Yep. So that's a good point. Anybody else? No, that's good. So again, just as a final review, I'll grab you again one more time, please, Remy. So key points for this again is that all of your attacks that you would normally do from the closed guard, all of your submission attacks are going to come from one of those things you've looked at. Okay, so again, if I'm here and if I can control his head and stop him from getting to the position or control him long enough that he can't open my legs, and I can retain the position long enough, then I can play. Okay, and when I'm playing the position, I want to try and do it to the point where I get outside his head, I outflank his head, I can control his head, I can attack a whole host of things from here. I can see his back. I get here, I go and outflank and control his arm. So sorry, I go this way, I can underhook and control his arm. I can overhook his arm. I can do a Kimura on his arm. I've got all sorts of different ways I can control the arm. Okay? If I do that, I'm in a position where I'm going to progress to either attack to a submission or get him to react in a way that I can reverse, upgrade position, whatever. If I get underneath and I control his body, okay, once I control the torso, as I said, from here I'm safe. And I'm going to move and move and move and get behind him. If I get behind him, this is wonderful as well. Okay, I've got a whole bunch of good things. He can't win from here, basically. Okay? If I'm here, I should win. I should at least win to the next position or win to the submission attempt. Okay, it doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to finish it, depending on how good they are, but I've started the process where I'm a step ahead. Okay, now he's got to play catch up to try and win the position back. And the last thing we said was the legs as well. Okay, so whether I attack the leg from underneath here, obviously, you know, I can attack and I can sweep. I can with a flower sweep. I don't have to wait for him to stand up. I can do things before he gets too far ahead of him. The last thing though, just wanted to say is that what does the guy on top have to do? He has to stop me doing that. Okay, and again, you can see it very clearly. Everybody by the end of it was getting into a position where they were stopping me from wrapping the head, wrapping the arm, wrapping the body, wrapping the leg. How were they doing that? They were maintaining good posture. They were maintaining good inside position with their hands. They were doing all the things we talk about all the time, okay, but they were doing it purely just as a means of stopping the person underneath from doing it. So everything we teach about attacking and finessing the position from underneath, the reverse applies then. As I said last week, when we come to looking at opening the closed guard, we want to make sure we shut down all those things. If I shut down all those things, then I'm going to be in a position to be able to move through, open and start the pass. Does that make sense? Cool. Any final thoughts or observations from anyone? No. No one's got anything profound to say. You're all deadbeats. All right, awesome. Thanks, guys.